Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a very specific video. I'm going to be ranking characters from Sonic Adventure 1 to Sonic Adventure 2. So, I will repeat some characters, but some of them have different physics from Sonic Adventure 1 to Sonic Adventure 2. So, first we'll probably be starting with Sonic from Sonic Adventure 1. Now, there are some good things to him, some bad things to him. But with that being said, let's go ahead and share my opinions with him. So, first things first, I loved Sonic Adventure 1 when I was younger. And I liked playing as Sonic. It was one of my first Sonic games I think I've ever played. And looking back at it now, it was pretty buggy. But I do like his storyline. It's a pretty long story, but he goes through most of the levels. And he has some pretty good movement. Now, his moveset is not perfect, but I will say it is pretty glitchy. So, sometimes you'll fall through floors, and yeah. But in my opinion, this would probably be somewhere up high. But let me explain. So, his story, it starts out normal. You play as Sonic throughout the whole thing. You meet up with Tails very first level. And yeah, his story's pretty great. But there are some downsides to him, he has to do the same boss fights as Tails and Knuckles, like Chaos, Chaos 5? Whatever the one is right after you fight Knuckles. He fights that, so does Tails, and so does Knuckles. But Sonic's probably the best one since he's mainly fighting Chaos the whole time. But if I had to give him a ranking, I think I would give him a S rank. Mainly because he has a great story, his controls are good for an old game. But now, let's move on to Tails. Tails' story is a lot like Sonic's. He just pretty much stays with Sonic most of the time, other than the plane chase. He gets separated from Sonic, and in the end, which he is more dependent by himself. But it's pretty much the same other than that, which kind of annoys me because you're watching the same cutscenes all over again, and then you're just fighting the same characters over again as Tails. Which, it makes it cool, but you could definitely do much better. So, my opinion on Tails, I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm not too huge of a fan, but it's definitely better than some of the characters in this game. So, the tier I would give him is I would probably give Tails an A. Not as good as Sonic, but he still has pretty good controls. Now, I do want to move on to Knuckles. This is where it gets interesting. Now, usually, I don't really like treasure hunting type games, but Knuckles, he does it pretty well. First of all, the big difference from Knuckles and Sonic Adventure 2 is you can't track all the emeralds at once. You can only track one at once in Sonic Adventure 2. But I do like Knuckles' side story. It definitely puts a twist. And I feel like the game's more about his, echidna family or echidna, old, dead people friends. Just his whole, family's just dead, but it kind of, explains it a bit more, what they used to be like. And I kind of like that. So, if I had to give this a ranking, I'd probably give it about an A rank. And mainly because I like his story. And his controls actually make treasure hunting interesting and actually makes it a bit fun. But now, let's move on to Amy. Amy's story is pretty interesting, but there's one thing that I will say about it. It really doesn't make much sense, or it does make sense, but it gets more interesting once you do E102 Gamma, and it makes more sense with those two stories combined. But the controls are a different story. The controls are pretty easy, but how to move her around is so slow. The slopes you can almost stop on if you just completely start slowing down. And it's very hard to move around with her other than her hammer jump. That's the only good thing about her controls. But if I had to give her a ranking, I would probably give Amy a B. Her controls are not too good, but she does have pretty good storyline. Now, for my least favorite character out of the whole adventure saga, Pig. The stupid cat I hated his fishing back when I was younger. I actually even broke a TV over this stupid dude. If I could make him, I would have made him die 1,000 times. Just like this. Yet he never dies. You have to do him to continue the story, and it sucks. With that all being said, I'm putting him in this category. He should definitely be a dead character. And I really hope I never have to play as him ever again. But with that being said, let's move on to E102 Gamma. Gamma, he's like an introduction to Tails and Sonic Adventure 2. But, I mean, he still plays pretty good, honestly. For the most part, at least. He can shoot enemies. He has his own variation of levels, like other characters do. But still, I really like him as a character. But also the same with him. The story, it's good, but it makes a bit more sense with Amy combined. But it's still a pretty good story. He has to hunt down his brothers to save him. I don't get why he's trying to save them by killing them. Maybe to stop Eggman from giving him orders. But I'd probably give Gamma I'd give him a B as well. The story's good, but it makes a bit more sense with Amy combined. With that being said, it's time to move on to the Sonic Adventure 2 characters. But specifically, Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic. Not much different from Sonic Adventure 1 Sonic to Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic, other than some new abilities. Main thing is Sonic can bounce, which can get you into a lot of good places. But his story, it's not as good as Sonic Adventure 1, I'd say, in my opinion. But I still like it a lot. So, if I had to give him a ranking, I'd probably give him a... I would also give Sonic Adventure 2 Sonic an S rank as well. His controls are good, but his story is a bit less interesting. Now it's time to move on to Tails. I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care for Tails' stage. Mainly because, his stages just suck. They feel like way too hard near the beginning. They just feel so long. And I'd rather be playing as Sonic or even Knuckles. But I'd give Tails from Sonic Adventure 2 a B. Not great, but it can be better. Let's move on to Knuckles. I can say the same thing about Sonic Adventure 1 Knuckles and Sonic Adventure 2 Knuckles. But one thing I hate is the levels feel so much harder in Sonic Adventure 2 than Sonic Adventure 1. And you can't track all the emeralds at the same time. So, I'd give him one less rank than Sonic Adventure 1 Knuckles, which isn't bad. But now, let's move on to Shadow. Shadow is pretty interesting. He gives me a feeling of Sonic Adventure 1 Sonic, because, well, he can't bounce, but he still has a lot of cool stuff. And honestly, I really like him as a character. His story, I love it, and the controls are great. So I'd probably give Shadow an S rank because it reminds me so much of Sonic Adventure 1, and I love his story. With that being said, let's move on to the Eggman. He's a lot like Tails, but I really like his level designs much better. They feel so much easier, but they're still a bit long. So honestly, I'd probably give Eggman about an A rank. But it's a bit better than Tails', so that's the main reason. But now, let's move on to Rouge the Bat. Rouge the Bat is exactly like Knuckles, pretty much. The same stuff, everything. And honestly, I'm gonna give Knuckles and Rouge probably the same ranking. And here's the proof of it. That being said, that is my tier list. All these Sonic characters are great. Except for one. This one right here. This one can die for all I care. I don't care. This one sucks. Please, never bring him back.